superstars. No one else can take this far. I'm flipping the switch. Get ready for this song. Let's do the Odyssey.
So moving on, we're going to get into Buy, Rent, Burn. This is the recurring segment of the podcast where we each pick a game, bring it to the table, we play them separately, and of those, we each decide which game we would personally buy, rent, or burn. The selections this week, Andy has selected Stanley, The Search for Dr. Livingston for the NES. This came out in 1992. Justin has picked D-Force for the Super Nintendo. It was released in 1991, and I've gone with Marco. Also goes by Marco's Magic Football, the Genesis version. This is 1994 release. So, starting back off at the top, I guess. Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about your game?
Sure. Stanley and the Search for Dr. Livingston is kind of a weird game. Obviously a late release. It's kind of crazy that it came a year after Justin's pick on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, I had not played this game before picking this game, so I just kind of picked it out at random because it seemed interesting. And yeah, it's kind of, to me, it kind of reminds me like Zelda 2, but not really. There's some, as far as the map and the, buildings you go and talk to and going to different places and doing side-scrolling things. It's very similar to me there, but yeah, I don't know if I could recommend this game to anybody. It was a little tough to get through, and some of the controls were kind of a nightmare to me. Specifically, the one that just stuck out to me was like if you jumped more than like 3 blocks high and fell, you like instantly died. And like every other game, it would not seem like you would fall that much, you would die. But instead of fixing that, they remedied that by giving you like an Inspector Gadget like helicopter thing that comes out of your backpack. So as long as you remember to use that, you'll be fine. So it's just kind of like, well, that's nice when you're really falling down, like a flight of like a huge ladder or something like that. But having to do that after just jumping off a few blocks I guess I didn't have the muscle memory to do that. So I died quite a bit there. How far did you guys get in this game?
I got far enough to know that snake can take a frickin' punch. Like, I punched that snake 50 times, and he didn't go down. And that's when I stopped playing this game.
I think I was fairly close to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the controls on it it's a little strange. And to remember to use the gyrocopter. I think that's what it's called. I'm not really sure. But just to remember to use those things is frustrating.
And the graphics are just overly busy. It almost feels like maybe like a PC port or something. Like it didn't originate on the NES. Like it's really
I could see that.
A weird style.
The colors were the mix of colors was just not appealing at all.
No, or the music.
Honestly, all 3 games, the music was really bad this week.
I thought the best part of the music, though, on Stanley was, like, the start menu. That was the best.
Oh, yeah.
And then after that, I was getting excited that the music would be fairly decent, but no, it was pretty bland.
Yep.
It's all downhill from that opening screen.
Yep.
I didn't get very far into it. I tried it a couple times, and I think it was 2 times I tried it, yeah. And both times I got to the same point. I was like, screw this. I'm done.
Right. Like, I can think of 5 things I'd rather be doing at any given moment than playing this game.
This is definitely one of those games that if you got to be in the mood to play this type of game and, like, sit down and figure it out and, like, actually go to the right spots. And
yeah. I struggle with these type of games a lot anyways. Like you said, it's kind of similar to like a Zelda type layout for the going in buildings and stuff. I struggle with those games anyways because it's just, I don't know, it annoys me, I guess, having to go in and visit with everybody.
yeah, they hide some of the important gameplay details in some of those conversations, but 90% of them are worthless. Like, they don't mean anything, you know?
What are you doing? I'm going into the jungle. Gasp! Like, I had to see that 3 times walking through the town. Like, come on.
Trying to find the temple. Gasp!
Believe it or not, it actually gets like fairly decent reviews, I guess, from a lot of people. I'm not one of them, but yeah, it definitely gets some decent reviews as a pretty fun, interesting game. But I didn't get that.
I could see, like, once you get more tools and stuff and the mechanics grow a little bit, it would definitely open up, I bet.
Yeah, finding the weapons.
Well, it's at
like
least ambitious.
Yeah. Finding the weapons like the machete and stuff like that. That's key, but yeah, the punching and all that stuff's really annoying.
Yeah.
It took me forever to realize how to use the weapons.
Yeah,
I'm just like punching everything that comes at me and I keep dying. I'm like, what?
Right.
What am I supposed to do?
Well, I think we've given that game enough thought. Justin, why don't you tell us about D-Force?
Alright, well, I guess it's a vertical scrolling shooter. Typical, top-down helicopter shoot 'em up type game. I had never played it. Well, prior to this pick, I played it once, and that was like 2 days before I picked it. So prior to that, I hadn't played it at all, and it's a decent game. I really don't like scrolling shooters. Like I struggle with side scrolling and vertical scrolling shooters to pay attention to, because the enemies coming in on random edges and just stuff flying all over the screen, I think it just frustrates my eyes, and I give up on watching and I crash all the time and die and lose.
Speaking of, that's my favorite part of this game. Just like that crash animation with the Mode 7, and it sounds like a kid playing with his toy airplane. Like, that's the sound effect. They recorded somebody's kid, because you get hit and it's just wee, and that's the frickin' death scene. I laughed every time I died, and I loved it.
The best part, when you messaged me that, like, I was actually thinking about that, and then you sent me the message. I was like, oh, that's amazing.
It's so
Because
bad.
it sounds like they take a breath in between it. Like, they have to finish the breath of the noise so you can finish crashing.
Yeah, it's got like some of the most like vomit-inducing use of Mode 7 that I've ever seen in a Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
It's so poorly implemented. Like, honestly, like, I feel, you know how when you go like Target or Walmart or anything, and you get those little handhelds, and it's like $20, and it's like, comes with 250 games built in. Like, this is one of the shooters that you'd find on that game. Like, that's how I feel. Like, that's the level of quality you're getting from D-Force. It's bad.
Yeah, I think I like top-down shooters to a certain extent. Like some of the bullet hell games that I play on an arcade, stuff like that is really fun. So when I was looking up D-Force, I thought it would be pretty enjoyable, but it is, to me, it's awful. It's very, like, it's just very slow pace. I don't know. It's just awful. I had a hard time playing through it. It was terrible.
Yeah. Well, and did anybody try the other modes at all?
I did the exploration after you mentioned it.
Yeah, so like if you go to exploration mode, it drops you into a level with a prehistoric level with flying, like, I don't know what they are, some kind of birds, and then dinosaurs, and then you use the trigger to kind of increase or decrease your altitude, like you can see in some of those other shooters where you have to get lower to hit enemies that are on the ground versus enemies that are in the air. So that's kind of an interesting use of mechanic, but then it's just so ridiculous too, because you'll come across like waves of Triceratops and you shoot them and like literally decapitate them and their heads just explode. It's just so bad. This game is like honestly like so awful. I love it. It's great. Like, not great, but it's good.
Oh, I'm right with Nate where I thought this was just an awful, like, I'm the same way. I love top-down vertical scrolling shooters. And I've been playing a lot of Raiden 2 lately, and this is not that at all. So I could not get in the flow of this game at all. The hitbox on it seemed a little wonky for that thing.
It's
and
huge.
The bullets were, the hitbox is huge, and then the bullets are pretty big as well. I don't know why I was having... There's only like 2 guys on the screen at one time, but I don't know why I was having such a hard time with them. It was just kind of made me go crazy.
The thing too is like in a good vertical scrolling shooter, you get to learn the enemy types and like the type of projectiles and patterns they have. And in this game, you have no idea because the same enemy could shoot like little pebbles or it could shoot these giant balls, and just I don't know. There's no way to anticipate it. It's bad. It's bad game design all around.
Well, I think for like a Super Nintendo release, like visually, it was terrible. I mean, for a Super Nintendo game, there are, NES top-down shooters that look way better than that, like Sky Shark or 1943 or stuff like that. I thought look way better than this game.
Oh yeah, they invested 100% into Mode 7, and that was about it.
Even on the title screen, Mode 7. Awful Mode 7. Ugh. Alright. Another winner. So we'll get on to my pick. We'll talk a little bit about Marco. So basically Marco, for the Genesis, it's a side-scrolling platformer where you're a little kid, and what they do a little bit differently is you control a soccer ball that you use to take out enemies, do different things with, like you can bounce it on your head. You can also use it as a kind of a springboard in certain situations. I mean, it's got... I mean, I wouldn't say it's an amazing platformer overall. It's got great animation in a visual style for a game of that era. The animation on the Marco and his soccer ball alone are great. The level design, though, is a little weird. You start getting into guys hanging out of windows shooting at you, which seems a little strange. He is a child. And then there are ghosts and like slime monsters by the second level. So it's kind of out there, but I think like the music is it's a really good package overall. I mean, the music's pretty solid, the animation's good, the controls are okay. They're probably a little bit too loose, and the camera doesn't quite keep up with how fast Marco can move. So you really kind of have to, I guess, play the game slow to progress. I played it as a kid and remember getting really far into it. So I picked it up later as a collector because I wanted to play it again, and I still think it's a solid enough game. What did you guys think?
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. The only thing that really stuck out to me that was a little bit frustrating was I feel like I could get the ball to go a certain way, and then I don't know how I did it, and struggled to figure out how to do it again. So you'd sit there for like a whole minute, like trying to kick a guy at a certain angle, and I could not get it the same way that I did it one time. But overall, like just the graphics, I love the graphics of this game. Huge sprites pretty much on everything, which maybe in some cases is a detriment, but it looks like a cartoon to me, And back then, it probably really stood out like that.
Justin, aren't you going to explain why you're going to burn the game this time?
I don't know if I should say anything about your game this week.
I'll be nice, I swear.
No, it's actually... I hate to admit it, but I really enjoyed this game.
What? Somebody get Justin on here. I don't know who this imposter is.
I was trying to decide a way that I could justify burning this game.
You could have just gone on principle. It's Ryan's game. Torture.
But no, it's actually a pretty fun game. The slime monsters, I think, that you were talking about, if you hit them once, don't they like shake the slime off and turn into cops?
Do they really?
Or,
I know they changed
I
form.
thought so.
That's fine.
Because I hit him once, and then the guy came up and like punched me, and I'm pretty sure it was a cop.
Oh yeah, I did
outfit.
see that once. I didn't put together that it was a cop though.
Like, I'm pretty sure. So it's kind of entertaining that the cop just punched a kid, but
Well, it's no weirder than people shooting kids out of windows. So,
Yeah.
in bonus stages, there's like 15 snipers in bonus stage.
I really struggled with the birds though when you're up on the wire. I don't know why, but those birds.
Well, and weren't some of them like foreground and some were? I mean, because I swear there were some that weren't actual enemies and they were just there for. Maybe
That could be why I struggled so much, because I'd try to avoid them and then they wouldn't move, and I'd be like, oh, I guess I'm gonna die, and then one comes flying in and kills me. I'm like, oh, I don't know where that came from. But no, I really enjoyed playing that game.
It's a cool mechanic.
Yeah, it's a lot to it, the mechanics that you don't see normally. So.
Well, I mean, the mechanic too might have been part of the problem with the game, because I don't know how many American children 20 years ago were just clamoring for a soccer-based game. So it probably wasn't a great selling point over here. I don't know how it did in other regions.
Oh, that and it's titled football, because of soccer, but
Right.
everybody over here thinks of football some other way. Like,
That's that's not a football.
I was like, oh, good. I hope it's like Tech Mobile. Oh shit.
It's just like Tecmo Bowl. Same people. Yeah. Well, so we got a little bit of overview on each one of those. Now it's time, I guess, to make our selections. We'll start back up off the top. Andy, why don't you go ahead?
For my buy, it's going to be Marco. I just love the art style in that game, and like we were just talking, I mean, the mechanic, to its detriment, sometimes it's a little wonky, but I kind of like that randomness, maybe. And then just being able to like respawn it and kick again, always have it there to kind of do different actions to suit the situation was really cool. My rent is going to be Stanley in the search for Dr. Livingston, because I think there's a lot more to that game than I was able to play. Because I didn't have the time this week to really sink into a game like that. So I kind of want to watch a video or something on that and see where that game goes further past where I played it. But yeah, I was not too impressed with it, I should say, from the beginning, but I could see where they were going with, inventory and, different places on a map. I was really interested in seeing where that would go. And my burn is going to be D-Force. That is massively disappointed. I saw that game and I booted that up and saw it was a vertical shooter. I was so excited. I was like, okay, this is probably my buy this week, and boy, was I wrong. How about you, Justin?
Well, against everything in me, my buy is going to be Marco. It's a solid game. My rent, I honestly, I think I'm going to do this as my rent just because it's not the other one, and that's Stanley. I don't really like that game, and I don't plan on renting it from a gas station anywhere nearby. But just because it's not D-Force, it will be my rent. So D-Force will be my burn as well. It's a terribly frustrating game and looks awful and plays just as awful. So
Nice.
it feels fitting to burn that one.
Nate, how about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with, surprise you all, I'm going to buy Stanley. It's a game that's kind of interesting, and I think you could really dive into it a little bit more, get a little bit more out of it. I actually remember renting it as a kid a couple times, so it's definitely a buy for me. For rent, I'm gonna pick Marco. Just visually, it looks interesting, and sound, it kind of has that classic Genesis sound, and then. This is no surprise here, but burning D-Force, big time. It's awful. It's visually terrible. Sound is awful. Slow game. Yeah, definitely light a match to it.
All right, so I guess I'll go with Marco. I would buy that one. I think it's a good platformer. It was fun to play it again. It had been years since I'd pulled it off the shelf. Maybe kind of an underrated game, and it still goes for very little money on the Genesis. And then the rent, I would rent Stanley just because, I don't know, I'm an NES guy. I like NES. I would agree with Nate that there's probably more to it if you invest the time. It's just not a game that I invested a lot of time into for this. So I think there might be more that I'm missing. And also, like Justin said, because it's not D-Force, it has to be my rent. And then I would burn D-Force, which I'm convinced is an abbreviation for Douche Force, because this game is terrible. I actually genuinely enjoy this for how awful it is, though. Like, it's just so laughably bad. And that death sound animation is one of the greatest things in gaming, I swear. But yeah, that game just needs to be obliterated. It's bad. Real bad. Well, kind of an interesting buy and burn. I feel it was a little lopsided, though, because Marco's the only one that was probably... I don't know, Marco had a little bit of an advantage from the other two.
Because it wasn't D-Force.
Because it wasn't D-Force.
Anything was better than that.
Yes.
Yeah.